For now, we're getting on our tourmobile and cruising along to the Jefferson Memorial. Well, there are many monuments in Washington, D.C., but it's generally considered that the triumvirate of the top three are the Washington, the Lincoln, and the Jefferson monuments. Modeled after the style of the Pantheon in Rome in homage to Jefferson's great interest in classical architecture, this is a must-see on your visit to Washington. It's a little bit out of the way, it's along the tidal basin, but it's definitely worth your while coming over to admire this great man. He was our first Secretary of State, he was then Vice President, and then he became the third President of the United States. His disagreements with Alexander Hamilton led to the formation of the two-party system in America. All men are created equal, he said. Equal and exact justice to all men of whatever state or persuasion, religious or political. Peace, commerce, and honest friendship with all nations, entangling alliances with none. When a man assumes a public trust, he should consider himself as public property. Great words from a great man. And you must come to the Lincoln Memorial, and here too you can read his words and contemplate his vision. Why should there not be a patient confidence in the ultimate justice of the people? Is there any better or equal hope in the world? This nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and the government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. With malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right, as God gives us to see the right, let us strive on to finish the work we are in. Immortal words etched in stone here at the Lincoln Memorial. The famous Gettysburg Address was written on the back of an envelope while he was on his way to the ceremony, and they've become some of the most ringing words in human history. All men are created equal, with government of the people, by the people, and for the people. It's just an awesome place, designed in part by Daniel Chester French, who carved the great statue that overlooks the memorial and anchors the mall. And our founding president not only has the tallest monument, but the entire city in its name is dedicated to this most important American. The Washington Monument is based on the style of the Egyptian obelisk from 5,000 years ago. And the most poignant and touching of all, the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. Construction was begun in 1982 and finished the following year. It was designed by Maya Lin, who won a competition, open competition that had 1,400 entries. Hers was picked as the best design of all. Very controversial when it first opened. Now it's widely accepted as one of the most moving memorial statements ever created. The black marble slab is like a gash in the ground with a chronological list of the names of all the men and women from America who were killed during the war. Over 58,000 names in all. It's a miracle of simplicity and design, and yet so powerful and overwhelmingly moving. The names etched in black granite, semi-subterranean. Nearby on the other side of the reflecting pool is the memorial to the veterans of the Korean War. It was dedicated in 1995, and it commemorates the 54,000 American soldiers who were killed during the Korean War. There's an inscription that says, "Our nation honors our sons and daughters who went to answer the call to defend the nations that they never knew or the people they never met." Even more recent than the Korean Memorial is the brand new memorial to Franklin Delano Roosevelt, President of the United States for 4 terms during the Depression, of course, and that is immortalized in various ways at this very moving space. We have bronze statues of poor people lined up for housing and food. There's a lot of beautiful water elements here, these waterfalls and fountains. These harken back to the days when Roosevelt was Secretary of the Navy. While president, of course, he had his famous fireside chats over the radio. His 4 freedoms are carved in stone here. Roosevelt led America out of the Great Depression and he led us successfully through World War II. A great leader, served more terms than any other president in American history. And of course, the largest and most impressive of all the buildings in Washington is the U.S. Capitol building. We're all burning up our film because the view is perfect here, framed by the autumn leaves, the great dome rising above the city. Very reminiscent of an Italian Renaissance dome. Here we go. We're going to walk inside and have an escorted tour with a local guide who will tell us all about the history and the arts inside the Capitol building. Certainly it's one of the finest structures to be found on the planet.
Okay, well, good morning and welcome to the U.S. Capitol building. If you've seen that, bring your heads down, look right behind you along the east wall. These 4 paintings are artist impression. And this room was the first meeting room for the House in Washington, used over a 50-year period, concluding in 1857.
It's a task trying to keep up with all the information that we're learning from Tim. Roger Williams, that would be a statue from Rhode Island. Walking through these rooms and corridors is so stimulating. It really gets you to thinking. And I was thinking about the great past represented here, the beautiful works of art, the important political decisions that have been made in this building, and how this building is really the center not just of Washington and of our country, but perhaps of democracy and freedom in the world. There's our hotel location right along the mall, the Holiday Inn Capitol. It's a great spot to stay when you're in Washington. Just half a block from the Air and Space Museum and 5 minutes walk to all of the other main museums of the Smithsonian and the mall. We do a lot of walking on our trips with Hawaii Geographic Society. These trips are always open to the public.
Yeah, straight there.
This has certainly been a highlight of our East Coast experience. Another great interior is the Library of Congress. You don't want to miss this. It's just recently been renovated and it's open to the public. You can walk into the lobby where they have some exhibit areas and you get a look into that vast rotunda of the reading room. One of the most highly decorated buildings in all of Washington, the Library of Congress. We've had quite a day with all these museums and monuments and the Capitol tour. And now as evening settles in, let's get into the metro and take a trip and find some nightlife in the city. Washington has a wonderful subway system, courtesy of you and me and all the taxpayers of the nation. It's a first-class metro, and it'll get you around town very quickly. It's very comfortable, very clean, beautifully maintained. Stations are some of the grandest subway stations to be found any place in the world. The map shows the extent of the system. It's not a huge system as subways go, but it does the job. We're going from the mall up to DuPont Circle. It only takes about 10 or 15 minutes depending on your connections, and you come up out of the ground to the neighborhood of DuPont, which is a very trendy neighborhood, a lot of nice shops and restaurants and cafes. It's a good place to come at night and have a meal. It's an international city, so you can get any kind of food imaginable on the planet here in Washington. DuPont is one of those great neighborhoods for dining. Another one is Georgetown, and another one close to DuPont is Adams Morgan neighborhood.